Hello and welcome to Business Insight. It's so good to be on your screen again on this beautiful Friday morning. I'm your host Adesowe Ramosele, and today on Business Insight we'll be discussing, as always, important issues that plague the Nigerian businesses. And of course, we have a guest who is joining us virtually by the name Kazeem Olanikbekun Sanusi, and is the Chief Responsibility Officer at DFSP Africa. That's Developmental Facilitation and Strategic Planning Institution, and that's where he is from, and he's joining us virtually. And welcome to the show, Mr. Kazeem. Good morning, Mr. Kazeem. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Very well, thank you. And you?
Okay, we can't really hear you here in the studio. I don't know if that's your mic. Oh, okay. All right, if you can hear me then. So could you give us an overview of the transportation sector in Nigeria as we have it today? I mean, has there been any changes of that? Has there been substantial changes, from the way it used to be and the way it is now?
Well, I think if you can, I hope you can hear me. Good to be here. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I think in the first instance, we got to look at how our transport system has evolved. And I must say that it's sad that over the years, our transport system has evolved quite arbitrarily with very poor thinking and planning that is the prevalent pattern. And you will find this in the absence of things like the National Transport Policy, like the National Transport Master Plan, like the National Transport Strategy, which are the underpins for any sustainable development in the transport space across the world. In places where people are really concerned about solving problems in a sustainable manner. And you'll find the arbitrariness in our leadership has not been able to, especially political leadership, has not been able to move beyond personal opinions in trying to implement transport initiatives based on their own. So it's been really arbitrary. It's been based on shooting from the hip. Largely, people just wake up, our leaders practically wake up and decide that we want to do this. And then there's also that misunderstanding about what transport is. Transport is really not just the moving, putting roads, which is what most of our people also, our leaders also think it is. It is about moving people. Transport is a backbone for the economy. It is the most visible infrastructure that connects and allows economies to overlap. So if we miss it, then we're really doing a great disservice to our economic growth and to whatever we claim to be trying to achieve for the economy.
Very well. If you're just joining us, we are discussing public mass transport, the prospects, the challenges, and the role of technology in the transportation sector. So now back to you, Mr. Kazeem. Let's look at the business side of things. This is a business-based station, so of course we look at the business aspect of everything. Now, what business opportunities do you think are available in the transportation sector, that is yet to be explored?
Okay, that's a very good one. In the transport sector, there is a chain of business opportunities, economic opportunities in the transport sector. from the manufacturing to sales to service to maintenance to operations to provision of ancillary services, the bus conductors. So it's a whole chain of, it's a chain reaction that if you get it right, it goes all the way and touches a whole lot of sectors, and the multiplier effects are huge. But if you, on the other hand, if you get it wrong, then you practically cannot maximize the benefits potentially accruable from that sector. So we've got a situation where we do not have we have not managed to create the ecosystem around the transport space, and where we have ecosystems that have grown on their own, we've not been able to really internalize and lock them down. And I would cite an example. We've got states who would import vehicles, and once you import vehicles or once you buy vehicles from the sales point, what you have is you've given them a part of your economy. And if those vehicles don't live to their economic life, which is, for instance, for public mass transit vehicles, you're looking at in the range of 7 to 10 to 15 years, depending on maintenance and all of that. So if you don't have the sales, parts, service, and support and maintenance arrangements backing these up, you've just given away your economy. And the only way you do that is to lock that down with all of these sales, service, parts, and maintenance, which keeps the vehicles on the road for longer, and then it improves the comfort for the transit riders, which is why we do not have sustainable public transport in Nigeria. Most people won't leave their cars, the comfort of their vehicles, to go into the uncertainty of the public transport system. And as transport planners, transport engineers, and all of that, in transport economists, we have this huge disappointment, this huge worry about the way the system is evolving. And we can only hope that our leaders will be able, especially on the political side, will be able to begin to lock their minds around how to improve sustainably the transport system, and more specifically, the public mass transit system, because that's the one that will work for everyone, the good for all, and then it encourages everyone. Overseas, most people don't drive, so I wonder why we make our people captive to the desire to drive themselves, to drive their own cars and all of that, when it's cheaper, it's better for the economy, better for the environment, better for people's health and sanity and all of that, to be able to take public transport. We should begin to think in the direction of closed-loop transport systems for cities that have the good numbers, especially places like Abuja, like Lagos, like Port Harcourt, like Kano. We don't have any business. We shouldn't drop the ball. We keep dropping the ball in terms of public transport development, and which is really unfortunate.
Very well, Mr. Kazim. Now, looking at the aspect of government's involvement in all of this, we see that government generally, especially in Lagos, which is the nation's capital, has been doing a whole lot when it comes to the construction of alternative roads in the state across Nigeria, as a matter of fact. Now, the major issue we have here in Nigeria over time has proven to be the fact that we don't maintain our infrastructure, right? Even when they are in place, we don't do well to maintain them. So what would you advise to be done to serve as a measure in the maintenance of roads in Nigeria?
Okay, so you mentioned Lagos. Lagos has a very peculiar circumstance. First, Lagos has, I would say, a connected challenge, which it will be better for them, for Lagos State government to begin to look at it from that angle. You have the intersection of waste management, of blocked drainages, of flooding, and water and bitumen and road infrastructure, and their oil and water, they do not mix. So which causes dilapidation, which then causes bad roads, causes congestion, causes vehicles to slow down, and then you see the chain of red lights as you're driving around in the city. So, which is why Lagos specifically needs to look at that challenge from that angle. And then, in terms of your question around the maintenance of public transport, that's where the sustainability comes in. Lagos, for instance, I'll go back to Lagos. Lagos needs to depoliticize its transport environment. Lagos is losing a lot of money to informal public transport systems. We should be looking at formalizing the transport sector in any area of the country. And this is the only way you can be sure that there is transport safety, there is convenience, there is comfort, there is timeliness, and all of that. You cannot leave the transport system of a city in the hands of people who are not formalized, who are not in a regulated framework. You know, you cannot have the agberos, in the case of Lagos, the touts, being the ones determining when the buses will leave, when this, which is prevalent. Yes, Lagos has the lad bus, the red bus, the blue bus, and all that are plying the roads. So the question will be, how much of this, how much have we been able to make these systems, the formal systems, immune from the prevailing tout situation? Because the feeders systems, the services that feed these services, the trunk services, are informal. So you cannot have that mix of formal and informal. Lagos, every city, not only Lagos, needs to begin to look at transport as a system where you have your trunk systems, you have your feeder services. The closer to the people that you take your public transport services by a chain of different types of services, different categories, the buses, the train, connected to each other, the the kekes, the small buses, the mini buses, forming that closed loop is what will make public transport not only appealing to people, but also sustainable economically, and be able to serve the people, serve the economy, serve the government as well, and then reduce the burden of the government thinking about people getting into one-chance vehicles here and there. We hear all of those stories practically every day in Lagos, and even worse in Abuja. Yeah.
Very well, Mr. Kazim. I don't know if you've noticed, traffic in Lagos has reduced drastically, and so do you think the government is doing enough in this regard to improve on our road networks, especially here in the commercial hub of Africa, Lagos? You know, do you think the government is doing enough in this regard to ensure that traffic becomes at least reduced to the barest minimum?
Well, when we say traffic reduced, I think it's artificial, largely. And so the fuel subsidy removal has caused a lot of people to either choose to work more from home or choose to take their businesses online or choose to travel only when it is compulsory, you know. And so we need to look at the economic impact of that fall in the number of people and vehicles and, I mean, commuters not necessarily vehicles this time around, the commuters on moving around doing their businesses. So this is still out for the jury to determine from maybe some proper studies 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, to see what the impact of all of this has been. But I think to a very large extent, we cannot look at it from that kind of black and white straight line analysis and say the drop is because the government is doing this. The government has been doing all that they can. And like I always say, Lagos is a classic example of a one-eyed man in the community of the blind. Lagos has huge potentials to set the bar so high, but we haven't managed to do that. And I would say it's, so there are two sets of people that are crucial here. The public sector, which is the civil service system, which is the primary advisory and implementing arm of government, and then the political leadership. Until they begin to, until they align around a strategy. Lagos does have some strategies in the transport space, but we haven't seen much of that really come into play. There's still a lot of discontinuity in the system. There's a lot of misalignment in the system, and they should, we should look at curing all of this. Lagos is one place that everyone hopes gets it right. People are learning a lot from Lagos State. People are learning a lot from their economic systems, their transport systems, their whatever, but they need to do a lot more. So in terms of transport, it is an alignment, but you cannot align around nothing. You've got to align around defined objectives, defined strategies, defined policies, and then wrap these social systems around it. All of the systems that you need to wrap around it, the change management systems, you've got to wrap it around it, that everyone takes ownership. How many instances have you seen in this country where government is planning to do anything and the people have a chance, the opportunity to actually comment and actually participate in the process building up to that initiative that government is bringing? So, and you expect people to take ownership of it. In countries where they're serious about solving problems, people are a part of it because the people are the beneficiary. The citizen is the reason for government. So without the people being able to comment, being able to, what are focus group discussions for? What are, then there are communities of people, the people with living with differently abled people, they're a huge community, and however small that community is, we need to pay a huge premium to their needs. We need to pay a huge premium to the needs of students. We need to pay a huge premium to the needs of women and elderly, and then the youth, and so many people. And how much of contributions do these respective groups have when we're doing our plans? We sit in our offices or our safe comfort zones, and we define initiatives and we roll it out, and then we say the people do not connect to it. And let me give you a quick example. So you look at it, and I want you to begin to pay attention to this when you drive around in Lagos. You find that a lot of the bus stops or a lot of the intersections or the interfaces between communities and public transport core routes, you find pedestrian bridges. Now, these pedestrian bridges are not, in a lot of instances across the country, are not aligned to the pedestrian desire lines. And we expect people to take them. We expect people to walk back 500 meters to go and take a pedestrian bridge and then walk forward 500 meters to be able to join a bus. And so, and people chance their way around across the highway, So these are the kind of, that's just one very visible failure of the public transport system. Like I said, the public transport is not just the buses, it's not just the roads, it is the facilities, the services, how complete it is. What we have, I doubt if there's any system in Nigeria that has achieved that completeness. And
well, sir.
it's sad.
Now, away from BRT buses, I mean, BRT buses have some sort of structure. But now, when we talk about the yellow buses, that's the downforce and the kekes and the other one, the bigger one, okay. I don't know what it's called. It doesn't come to mind right now. But my point is, what regulatory body is in charge of these yellow buses? Because sometimes, talking about pricing now, the way they charge for charge passengers, I don't know, is there any particular body that determines how much they should charge? Because sometimes you are at the bus stop, one bus is saying 300, the other one is saying 500, the next one is saying 700. Is there a particular body that regulates how the price, and how can it be, how can they continue to work in such a manner that everything is uniform?
Okay, so the challenge there is that the system is not regulated, is not formalized, is not structured. So it's a free economy. And in a free economy, different factors will come into play. They will look at the weather condition, they will look at the volume of passengers that are trooping into the bus stop, they will look at the distance, and a lot of things will just be arbitrary. That's why there's nothing else, no other solution around this than for you to make sure that you have a regulated system, a formal system, recapitalize the transport sector, and then get things working. In terms of regulatory body, the Ministry of Transport typically should have that mandate, to set the pace, make sure that things are done right in the transport sector. But of course, there's been a lot of distortions in even the markets, in the market environment, in the economy, that even the bosses, don't forget that the drivers are also like you and I, they also feel the impact of the economy. And even though a lot of people will think that they take it out on the rest of the population, but the thing is, they are not also immune. So where in some systems you have the subsidies to keep the prices at a decent level, but we don't have that. We don't have recapitalization. We don't have. So we just need to do a deep dive and treat the transport system as a problem that needs to be tackled head on, with all hands on deck, and then we take it forward from there. There's so many professionals in Lagos State who can make sure that all of this is done. How many of them are involved? The ones that are involved are even overwhelmed. They want to do a lot of things. The system is not that permissive. And then the connection between the ones who drive the policies and implementation and the ones who lead that alignment is really not that well locked down. So I think it's going to be a very good thing to see how Lagos engages all of these thoughts going forward. And of course, across the country, how other governments do that.
Yes, yes. Now looking at safety, many of those public buses, talking about the yellow ones now, not the BRT, like I said before, those ones have a better structure, but these yellow buses seem to not exactly have that, because most of the buses we see on the roads are dilapidated, and is that supposed to be the norm? Like, are these buses supposed to look that way? Or is there also a measure or a regulatory body as well that determines the condition of the public buses? Because some of these buses don't even have side mirrors. or seat belts, thereby endangering the lives of passengers. What body is supposed to regulate this kind of issues to ensure that, to just ensure the safety of Nigerians, basically?
So in the transport environment, there's a lot of players. There is Directorate of Road Transport Services. They call them, they're popularly known as VIO. And they do conduct roadworthiness tests. And so if this is well conducted, a lot of the buses that you're talking about would not be on the roads in Lagos and in many other parts of the country. A lot of the people who do cabus and all that will not be on the roads. But the question will now be, what other options have we given them? We haven't put a system to recapitalize in place. So, and people need to fend for themselves and their families. So the transport sector has that. One of its silver bullets will be the recapitalization of the sector, where improve the quality of service, improve the quality of the vehicles, and the government may have to do the strategic, innovative expenditure in these areas, but then it pays off ultimately. Transport is one of the infrastructures that we have that we tend to have that widely believed, we entertain that widely believed fallacy that transport is not a sustainable business. It is. If it is not, you won't have companies who have been in the transport sector for donkey years, running luxurious bus services, running bus services in Lagos, trying to get into the bus service environment and all that. The challenge is the regulated environment. When it is not regulated, the people that should make money from the system would not, and that would naturally discourage investors from coming in. That will naturally discourage people who want to do supporting infrastructure, supporting activities, would not want to, So it is the body that we face is we need to neutralize all of these gaps around regulated services. And the VIO, I don't know, is not the same. They're called DRTS more often now. The VIO needs to step up its game. And there's this thing around traffic in transport infringements or vehicle dilapidation and all that. We tend to focus more on the private vehicles. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it's because those ones are the ones who can pay. So we let the kabu guy who beats the traffic light go, and we let the bus driver who parks in the wrong place go, and then we hold on to the private vehicle or the vehicle that looks a bit clean, So these things do not have, there are no sacred cows in the transport service, on the road space, in any part of the world. But in Nigeria, we do have that, sacred cows. If you park your car in the wrong place, you get booked. It is straightforward. Whoever you are, even if you're the president or whatever, you will get booked. But in Nigeria, we still have that thing around, oh, he's an honorable member, or he's a commissioner, or he's a policeman, or he's a military man, and I extend a different kind of, we have a different kind of reaction to those people. So we've got to completely depoliticize that environment. No respect of anyone, whoever you are. Once you're on the road space, you are the same level. Everything you do that constitutes risk is the same level of risk that the illiterate constitutes, that the professor doing the same thing constitutes. So it's got to be the same reaction. And so I hope we do get it right.
I'm glad you mentioned that instance, because indeed we see that happen many times, oftentimes than not. You see, like almost as though these buses are above the law. You know, they just drive, you know, do whatever they want. But once a private car does the same thing, you know, these traffic wardens and everybody, they come for them. So that is really a problem. And secondly, we have the issue of security, because we have seen some instances where these buses are used for criminal activities. You know, so what can we do, even as a people, to ensure the safety and security actually of passengers in Nigeria?
Firstly, as the people, yeah, I think we will be, as people, as transit riders, as citizens, as where we need to ride on what the government puts in place. All right. So if government has a public transport records system, right? Every car, every vehicle that has had any instance of being a security risk or threat to anyone should have been flagged. And there are systems that are in development. I'm working with some of us, some guys on something like that, that you, even as a passenger, you can look on an app when you want to take maybe a Uber or a taxi, and you look up the number and it tells you if this guy has been flagged. So we need to have those kind of systems in place. Those are the systems that help even the citizens, the people who are the receiving end of all of these safety risks, to be able to be proactive and be able to actually give precise reporting on what each vehicle has, what the crimes or safety risks each vehicle poses. But it rides on the system that government has put in place for transport safety. Without transport safety, we're not going anywhere. No one, ultimately, the minute you can afford a car, you want to get out of the public transport system, which shouldn't be. It should actually be that even when you can afford to buy a car, you're weighing it. What do I need a car for? I live where public transport covers me end to end, first mile, last mile. I get to where I'm going. I'm safe, even when I'm carrying my laptop bag. As a female, I'm carrying another bag, my handbag. I have shopping. I'm safe. I'm secure until people get into that kind of mindset, that mind frame, which is by the system giving them that comfort. If that comfort is not there, everyone is waiting for the day they can afford to buy a car and get out of this system that puts their life at risk every blessed day. So those are the kind of things that we need to begin to look at. A lot depends on government leadership. You know, there is little or apart from maybe paying attention, looking at the kind of vehicle, looking at the kind of people in the vehicle, looking at the neatness of the car, looking at the tires, those are the things that, but when you don't have a choice, you will take them. You get to the bus stop, that's the only vehicle left to go from Ajah to Oshodi, and you see that one of the tires is swollen. And that's the only vehicle, and you need to get home. You will enter that bus. However well you scan around the bus and say one light is not on, this one, you will, because you don't have a choice. So, but if the system is such that it weeds out all of those kind of defective vehicles, defective drivers, defective, with the system, you will have more comfort. And then you will end up not even bothering about getting a car. We have so many cars on our roads that are not worthy to be, but also the question is, are the roads worthy of our cars as well? So it's a whole lot of back and forth that we will see in that area. Thank you.
Mr. Kazim, we'll go on a quick break now. When we return, we'll continue the conversation, okay? Stay with us.
My name is Olatunji Shoti Miri. I'm a performing artist and, television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Sook News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Sook News. If you're not watching Sook News, I pity you, but keep watching Sook News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timida Kolo and you're watching Sook News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Sook News. Guys, keep watching Sook News. For everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news, Sook News is your station.
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, FESTAC, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of legendary contemporary Nigerian artists, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged FESTAC 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theatre complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of large green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre. Sook Enlightenment.
Welcome back. You're still watching Business Insights, and we still have with us our guest, Mr. Kazim. Mr. Kazim, hope you're still with us. Okay, we are still discussing the prospects, challenges, and the role of technology in public mass transport in Nigeria. And Mr. Kazim has been our guest, Mr. Kazim Olanikbekun Sanusi. He has been with us, discussing this topic because it is a topic that every Nigerian can relate to, and of course, public transportation is one of the major ways we move from place to place in Nigeria, especially for those who can't afford cars. And just like Mr. Kazim said rightly, we should have a structure in place in that people would not even see the need to want to buy cars, except there is a dire need for it. If you can afford to have a car, despite, you can go ahead, but there should also be that option that you can say to yourself, I don't need a car. I have a public transportation system that can move me from where I am to where I want to be. So why do I need a car? Thereby even reducing the congestion we have here in Nigeria, traffic congestion. Okay, our guest is back, Mr. Kazim. So Mr. Kazim, let's look at technology. How do we utilize technology, such as electronic ticketing, real-time tracking, etc., to enhance efficiency in this sector?
Okay. So there's something we call integrated ticketing. For instance, in a situation where you have integrated transport services, your integrated ticketing will take you from being able to ride on the bus, being able to ride in the keke, being able to everything within the closed transport loop. You do not need a different card for it, and you probably don't even need to do multiple payment instances in the same day. So the systems can be configured in such a way that you may pay at the beginning of the trip, at the end of one trip, beginning of another trip, or end of the day. It depends on what we want to do. And these systems are usually card-based or based on the clients having registered on the system and having some funds in their wallet, so to speak. And then there's the ITS, the Integrated Intelligent Transport Systems, where you can monitor vehicles in real time. The transport management systems where you can, from your vehicle, or at any point in time, know when the next bus will be here, when the next bus that is coming into the station now is heading in the direction of is going into so destination. So technology has a huge role. And then even in terms of safety, there are onboard cameras that are in public transport vehicles and connected to a central monitoring control room where people are observing what is happening in each vehicle on the road, especially when it's a regulated system. So, and the emergency responses are then faster to move into action if there's any risk identified or spotted. So, and then also the ticketing, the apps management, the people, even the client management, the customer relations management. You get updates on, your bus for so day is going to be a bit delayed. It gives comfort. ICT helps you to be able to, when you bring in technology into an environment, it helps you to be able to provide comfort. It helps people to have certainty. It helps people. No one likes to operate in an uncertain system. The uncertainty is why people want to provide their own solutions. So ICT is very, very important, very crucial. It helps with safety, it helps with convenience, helps with the ease of knowing which direction, what buses. If you look on most of the trains, you see the routes, what do you call it, route map on most in most trains. Those are the kind of things that your transport management system does. It gives you a route map and you can begin to look at where you are to where you want to go, and it can give you the best route, and you know where the next bus stop to drop, even if you have never been in that city before. That's why there is ease of going around, moving around in other places in the US, in the UK, in South Africa. You can move around without necessarily asking questions, and because the system is there to provide that clarity.
All right, so now let's look at interstate travels, moving from state to state, because now it has become extremely expensive. I think from Lagos to Abuja now by road is about 50,000 naira. I can only imagine what a flight would cost. Anyway, what can the federal government do to checkmate private transportation companies in Nigeria to ensure that their pricing are not too exorbitant?
So, like I said earlier, it's a free economy. So it depends on on several things, the volume and all of that. So government in the past had the Federal Urban Mass Transit Agency, and they had buses. Those are the kind of ways that government can regulate. But I don't subscribe to it being government run. It can be that we have some major supported, private sector led, private sector managed, private sector controlled entities responsible for delivering these nationwide services, competing in that space. So we need to increase the competition and bring in a regulated competition, where in such a way that that regulated competition is looking at vehicle kilometers per passenger when they are doing their costing, and their costing is subject to a whole lot of balancing, because the private sector wants to make money as much as possible. The public sector wants to make do social as much, provide social services as much as possible. The PPP comes in and tries to balance it. It wants to make money at the same over time, and then also provide, make sure the semblance of the social provision is there. That's why their money is spread over a longer time. So we need to do those kind of things, strategic initiatives. Government needs to work out a strategic urban mass transit intervention program. We had an opportunity in the Shore P days that government devoted some money to public mass transit, but it didn't end up as an initiative. It ended up being providing vehicles for operators, state operators, private operators. So it wasn't designed as an initiative, so it didn't have the desired, what should have been the impact that it should have had on the system. So those are the kind of things that we need to begin to look at. How do we introduce a competition, public-private partnership competition in the transport space, especially interstate travels, that they will be able to make money, they will be able to provide services, and they're making their money will be over a longer term. What's the viability gap fundings, what's the bridge funding, how do we fund it, and all of that. Government has said that it's set to have removed subsidy now, even though that in itself is has a huge question mark. But where can we put the savings or the clawbacks in a strategic urban mass transit intervention program?
Very well, Mr. Kazim. Now, COP28 is over, and of course, we know our president is all about looking for investors to come into Nigeria. Do you think bringing in investors, to come invest in the transportation sector in Nigeria would do us a whole lot of good?
Absolutely. Getting investors to come into your economy is dependent on how much comfort you're able to pass on to them. And I have this analogy. If I know you, and I know you have 100 children who can pool $1 billion together each for you, and then I am your neighbor, and you walk up to me every time to ask me for $1 billion. And if I'm going to give you that $1 billion, it's either I waste your time a lot to the point where you get tired of asking me, or I give it to you at a premium, punishing you for the fact that you cannot get your children to believe in your aspirations. So locally, we need to begin to look at what local opportunities for funding government initiatives exist. Yes, we can ride on the international directions. We're looking in the direction of CNG, electric vehicles, and all of that. These things cost a lot of money. But then what kind of local funds can we pull together? How well are Nigerians able to say, oh, yeah, I'm buying into the public transport development fund? If we can have that kind of thing, the road accident fund, where I'm putting in so amount, and I know that Over the years, this will be my returns and all of that. If in the Nigerian space, if you can pull from, if you're coming to talk to someone and your citizens, your children have pulled $1 billion into a fund, it's easier for the person to even see that he's going to lose out if he does not participate. So we go cap in hand and in a week from a position of weakness. So we haven't maximized our strength in terms of our numbers, in terms of the liquidity in the country. As much as we say that we're illiquid, we are liquid. It's a liquid nation. 250 million people. We don't even know precisely how many we are, but you know, so it's something that we need to begin to look at. How do we maximize the potentials for pulling funds?
All right, we are wrapping up the show, but I would like your final thoughts. And I would also like to ask you, where do you see this sector, going forward? What are the prospects, in to be looked forward to, in this transportation sector?
Yes, I think there is. Okay, so the question is where do I see it? So I want to speak from the angle of optimism, extreme optimism. So I will say I hope, like many other people in this sector, in the transport sector, in the development sector, we hope to see more committed and more strategic, more multidimensional approach to the transport sector, as well as to every other sector of the economy, where we're looking at the saying is, if you fail to plan, you practically plan to fail. So we want to see that the Federal Ministry of Transport needs to roll out the National Transport Master Plan. We need to roll out the National Transport Policy. We have to have the transport strategies. At each state level, we have to have that, and they have to be interconnected. They have to be able to speak to each other. The National Planning Commission needs to also step into this space and more like coordinate, so that they are the central clearinghouse for all of these strategies and plans, and making sure that they speak to one another and there is integration. So all of this is what we hope to see, and we hope that will be what the case will be in the next. And it's not rocket science. In 1 year, we can start this journey. We can be on this strategic approach by rolling out a preliminary transport strategy and say, okay, so this is what we're doing, this is where we're going. And the preliminary transport strategy is scalable, because when we now have our policies and plans and all that, we then upscale the strategy to feed into all of this. So we need to have that direction. Without direction, we're not going anywhere. Government should please give us direction.
Indeed, without direction, we're going nowhere. And we do hope we see a positive impact, of this kind of conversations. We hope government officials get to watch this kind of content, so they can have some information into how to move the sector forward. Many thanks to you, Mr. Kazim, for joining us. Yes, that has been Mr. Kazim Olanikwe Kunsanusi. He is the Chief Responsibility Officer at DFSP Africa. Thank you so much for joining us on Business Insight.
Thank you very much, and had a good time. Yeah. Thank you. And
all right,
I'm
and
also
with that,
we
call it a wrap on Business Insight for the week. Many thanks for joining us from Monday through Friday, and we hope to see you on Monday for a fresh edition of Business Insight. Okay, and of course from